to you all at home.
You've still got a chance to win this race, haven't you?
Hi guys, Harrison101 back at it once again with a brand new video for you, and welcome to episode 2 of series 3 of Dre TV here on the Harrison101 YouTube channel. And this is a big one. This is a topic that I've been wanting to cover for a little while now, actually. And the Mercedes performance of this past weekend in Australia kind of sealed the deal, really. Pardon me. Yeah, I'm still coming off the downside of a cold, so you've got to bear with me just a little bit on this one. But it's interesting because Christian Horner was one that was leading the charge on this yesterday. And Christian Horner, after the Grand Prix, basically described Red Bull's weekend in Australia as a bit shitty. And basically said that he feels like there should be a performance balance for the field. And it's like, this old chestnut again. It's just, you know, the nature of the sport more than anything else. But Horner was complaining about his team, about how the Renault power units are down 100 horsepower on the rest of the field and how they're struggling, and it's kind of ruined the drivability of the car. And it showed in the Grand Prix. Daniel Ricciardo finished in 6th. Daniel Kvyat didn't get off the start line. Ricciardo looked completely mediocre in that performance, you know, didn't really do anything with it. Couldn't pass Felipe Nasr with the much more powerful Ferrari power unit. All of a sudden, Sauber look like they're actually quite a decent team this year, or could be quite a decent team. And Red Bull, the 6th may have been a little bit flattering given the state of the grid and how the race only started with 15 cars. So, not a good look. So Horner was basically calling for a performance balance, and it's not the first time this has happened, especially given that Bernie Ecclestone agreed with him a couple of days ago, saying that, you know, we should try and balance the field a little bit. And it comes back to this old point of dominance in Formula 1, and, you know, dominance, technology versus entertainment, and it's a tug of war that has plagued Formula 1, I'd say, since the turn of the century. And I'll explain why in the course of this video. And first of all, let's tackle Horner's comments. Was Horner a bit of a hypocrite to suggest that Mercedes should be nerfed a little bit? Yes and no. I say yes and no because originally I was like, yeah, Christian Horner's been a bit of a hypocrite. He's been a bit like Jose Mourinho. He'll celebrate and laugh and joke when things are going well. When they don't go well, you know, he'll moan and rant and rave and be a bit of a hypocrite, basically, on the whole thing. Not quite the same thing here, like, in the sense of doing a little bit more, giving it a little bit more rational thought. I realised Horner isn't completely talking out of his butthole here. I'll explain. Because it wasn't that long ago Red Bull was the dominant team in Formula 1. Like, I'd say since the second half of 2009, more or less, Red Bull's been the best car. Were they that dominant? Not really. 2 of the 4 years, the odd-numbered years, 2011 and 2013, Red Bull were really, really good. Seasons where they both had double-digit wins. As a team, I think Red Bull had 15 wins in 2011 or something like that, and then they had 13 in 2013, all from Sebastian Vettel. 2010 and 12, the even-numbered years, they were challenged a lot by other teams, especially 2012, where 6 different teams won a Grand Prix in 2012. We may never see that again, but essentially, in those days, how Red Bull got ahead was aero management. Adrian Newey, as we all know, is a genius when it comes to car design, aerodynamics, and, you know, basically finding ways to get around the rules, bending the rules a little bit, and basically doing things that other cars could eventually copy. Like, for example, 2009 you had Brawn GP with the double diffuser. Eventually the other teams developed it themselves, copied it, it caught on. Brawn GP was no longer the best team because they ran out of money to develop the car. So that was a thing. But at the same time, it's like that was their way of getting around the rules. And, you know, it was stuff that eventually other teams could copy, pardon me, and could catch up with. And that's what happened, like, especially in 2010 and 12, where the field eventually caught up to Red Bull again. Not so much in 2013, Mercedes was the biggest threat, and Mercedes were too busy thinking about the following year. But Red Bull was dominant for more that reason. Renault's engines back then, engine power wasn't really a debate back then. Back then it was more to do with aerodynamics and tyre management back in those days that made cars really good. It's a different story for Mercedes in 2014 and 15. In this case, most of Mercedes' ability comes from their power units, and, you know, their power unit is incredible. It's an incredible bit of engineering, and the extra power has made Mercedes the dominant team it is now. Even after Ferrari upgraded their power unit this year, Mercs have made advancements too, because the gap between Alonso finishing third in Australia to the winning Mercedes or fourth I should say really, and Vettel this year, it's practically the same, about 35 seconds. So even with an enhanced power unit, Ferrari's still struggling in comparison to the big dog in Mercedes, and that combined with their decent aero package, you know, it's made Mercedes a near invincible team. Like, under normal conditions where mechanical stuff doesn't happen, Mercs win, period. That's just how it is. So it's not quite the same because power unit technology can't be copied. They're all unique to their own, and that's a serious problem. And especially with the new regulations where teams are being told you've got to freeze more of your parts as time goes on. Like, it was 5% last year, I think it's 15% this year, and it's going to go up and up till eventually, I think it's going to be 95% in 2017, 2018, something like that. So engine development is not going to be a thing in a couple of years' time. So, as Martin Brundle quite rightly pointed out in his column this morning, you know, it's going to be a struggle for teams to keep up. And the way the rules are designed now, it rewards the best power unit. And Mercs is the best power unit in the field by a mile. So it's not the same thing. It's going to be very, very hard for other teams to keep up. And essentially, the way the F1 is now, it could be set in stone for another 2 or 3 years yet, easily. It's not a healthy situation if you're a team like Red Bull who are blatantly feel like they're not the problem. Red Bull are a team who feel like it's Renault's fault, and you know that comes with its own ifs and buts and debates and whatnot. But it's a different nature of dominance more than anything else. So I can kind of see where Horner's coming from on this, but at the same time, given that he runs Red Bull, I still think his comments was a little bit rich, because nobody was bitching about a Red Bull when they were dominating. It's a different ball game now. Mercs knew what the end game was in 2014, and they built a advance in ahead and blew the field out of the water the following year. Simple as that. And you know, it's not the first time we've seen levels of dominance in Formula 1. Again, it's been a common trend since the turn of the century. Like, even before then, Benetton changed the game in 1994 with Michael Schumacher and traction control. Williams have had many a broken car in the 90s. Since the turn of the century. We're just forgetting about Michael Schumacher's dominant run in 2000 to 2004 at Ferrari, where he won 5 straight championships, won more than half the races in those 5 seasons, and would go on to be a 7-time world champion. You know, and what happened to that? In 2005, Bernie changed the rules around, made it so that you couldn't change tyres in the middle of a race, made it so that, you know, made it so you couldn't change tyres in a Grand Prix, and as a result, it favoured the Michelin runners, who were better endurance rise for an entire race, as opposed to Bridgestone, who was pretty much only making tyres for Ferrari at the time. Michael Schumacher himself commented saying it was like somebody blunted my weapon. And I don't think the changes in 2014 was done to stop Red Bull. I think it was a nice convenience that came along with changing the rules in 2014, which was, you know, announced back in 2012. Because hybrids were the way forward, and that's what it's going to be now. And this is the point now where, due to dominance, and due to teams standing out from the crowd, and due to teams getting bored, or fans getting bored when the same guy wins over and over again, is that Bernie's now seemingly obsessed with trying to make the field as balanced as possible. And that in itself comes with drawbacks, and this is the whole point of the technology versus entertainment tug-of-war that Formula 1's been in for the last 15 years or so. We were lucky. Between 2005, or 2006 and 2010, we had 5 different world champions. That's not happened since 1982. And those things are quite freakish. That doesn't happen anymore because the nature is someone's going to come along and make a big development in Formula 1 and smash the field. As we all know, there is a gold mine for getting it right after the tech rules change. Braun GP did it in 2009, Merckx did it in 2014, you know, Renault did it in 2005 after the rules changed. It happens. It can, it has, and it will always happen. But here's the problem. It's like Formula 1 are trying to ride this middle ground, and it's not really working, because the technology, like, is F1 the pinnacle of motorsport these days? I'd argue no. I'd argue with the WEC producing more than 1,000 horsepower out of all its hybrids these days, Nismo coming along now with a 1,250 horsepower four-wheel drive hybrid that's coming around at Le Mans this year. You know, I'd argue that F1 is no longer the pinnacle of technology, especially when we're in Grand Prix where only 15 cars are actually racing and other teams like McLaren and Honda are completely struggling to get it right. You know, in a field where half the field is irrelevant because of one power unit being better than all the others. Is that really the pinnacle to me? It doesn't say that to me at the moment, especially where other guys embrace technological advancements like the WEC has done in the past, and what the WEC is doing now. I know endurance racing comes with its own set of problems in terms of entertainment value, but you can't deny their tech is very impressive. So that's a problem. The other problem is, you go down the entertainment road, where does that lead you to? Because if you really want an entertaining series, make it a spec series like GP2. Or, you know, like Formula E has done, where it's now, for now, a spec series. Next year it won't be because there's 8 different manufacturers, but that's the end game when you go down the entertainment road. And is it ethically right to try and cripple a team that's too good? That's a debate in itself, because, you know, Red Bull, did they deserve to be nerfed or anything like that? Maybe, maybe not. Does Merckx now deserve to be nerfed just for being that good? It's not Mercedes' fault the rest of the field can't catch up with it at the moment, and that's a problem. If Bernie said to Merckx, "Oh, take 100 horsepower out of your engines, we're gonna rev limit you to like 11,000 RPM or whatever," like they did with those Red Bull V10s back in the day, where they were choking the engines out and making them limit at 15,000 RPM or something like that. You know, would that be fair? Would that be ethically right? I don't know. But the thing is, you do have to kind of have an obligation to your fans to a degree as well, because if the fans stop watching, then there's ultimately a problem. So, where's the balance here? Can there be a happy medium between dominance and entertainment value? Because it's hard, because the two different sides of the spectrum are so large and so different. Like, in my opinion, there's a serious chance Mercedes run the table and win all 20, or maybe 19, depending on what happens to Germany, all 19 races this year. And that's a problem. That's a serious problem. Are fans going to keep watching if it's going to be a championship dominated by Hamilton versus Rosberg all the time? It's not a good thing. But on the other side, is a spec series going to help the pinnacle and technological side of things when everybody's running the same car? And you're deliberately going out of your way to butcher a team that gets too good for its own good. It's a difficult one, and it's the problem. I think it's the biggest problem Formula 1 has got at the moment, where I think it's struggling to juggle both sides of the spectrum. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one as always, but just before we go, let's cover the new feature on the show, Dre's comment question of the video. And in this case, I'm going to pick Danny Brennan's comment here, where he says, "Hey Dre, nice to see Dre TV back and better than ever." Thanks, Danny. Now for my question. Is there more of a problem at Red Bull than just the Renault power units when you have a Toro Rosso team with 2 rookie drivers and a lot less budget within 2 to 3 tenths of Ricciardo's car and actually out-qualifying Kvyat? It's a good question. maybe is the answer to that question. I think Toro Rosso always claimed this year they were trying to go for the top 5. Franz Tost was really confident about this year's car and their drivers, and Max Verstappen and Carlos Sainz looked very solid in Australia, if you ask me. And if they're on the same power unit, and Toro Rosso's got decent money in their own right and are able to keep going, and are able to give the factory team a run for its money, then all power to them. And with Red Bull seemingly struggling with the drivability of their car, and Daniel Ricciardo looking very average indeed, hey, it's possible, you know? We'll have to see how it goes on, and I don't think Red Bull are going to give as much money or support to Toro Rosso if they end up being that close, because they don't want to get shown up by the junior team more than anything else. But who knows? It wouldn't be out of the question to propose it, though, I must admit. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that a guy from the junior team has surprised people and beaten the factory dudes. Just saying. But anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the matter as always. Was Horner being a hypocrite? Is there a happy medium between technology and entertainment? I'd love to hear your thoughts as always. But until next time, I've been Harrison101. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll catch you guys next time. Sayonara.